what happens if you live in a housing ACT property and you need repairs. So you have exactly the same rights as every other tenant in private rentals and ACT to have your landlord, so in this case it's housing ACT, to keep your house in a reasonable state of repair in accordance with the law. This requirement, the requirement to keep your house in a reasonable state of repair, that's based on the condition your house was in when you moved in. So that's why it's really important whenever you move into a house, you fill in that condition report and note any repairs that need to be completed. Having said that, when we're here and now, there's a problem with your house, you need a repair, there are a few steps that you need to go through. First, you need to call the maintenance help desk. So I'll post the number in the comments, but that's 6207 1500. You need to provide the operator with your name, your address and your telephone number and describe what the problem is and that you need to get it fixed. It's then really useful if you ask for the work order number, which they should give you, and make sure that you write down that work order number and the date, so that if housing doesn't carry out the repairs in a reasonable time, you've got that number and the date and the time that you made the call so that you can let them know, you know, I made this call 2 weeks ago and nothing has happened. That's the first thing you do. There are two different types of repairs that your landlord is required to carry out. There's standard repairs and there's urgent repairs. There have been some changes due to COVID-19 about standard repairs. So the law normally says your landlord must attend to non-urgent repairs, so standard repairs. The law normally says they must do that within 4 weeks. This has changed due to COVID-19. The ACT government has approved some changes that say the landlord must complete non-urgent repairs within a reasonable period. And this is partly because of things closing and there being difficulty with accessing and social distancing and all those issues. But what does it mean to have something within a reasonable period? What can you expect as a tenant? So what the law says is that in deciding what's reasonable, you have got to think about the nature of the repair, how much access is required to the property to do the repair, and what type of hardship would be suffered by you as the tenant if the repair isn't done. You and the landlord, so Housing ACT, then need to agree on the time period in which the repair would be completed. The ACT government has made a range of recommendations to Programmed, which is the service provider, as you know, that carries out those repairs, about making sure they do things like practice proper physical distancing and good hygiene when they come into your house. So that shouldn't be a health risk to you. So the types of things we're talking about here are things like a broken internal door in your house, or a kitchen drawer that's been broken, or some damage to the carpet. It's things that shouldn't massively impact on your ability to live your day-to-day life in the house, but you do need to get them repaired. So that's standard repairs that used to have to get done within a month. Now it can be longer, but it still has to be reasonable. So that's something that you need to negotiate with housing. Remember to call the maintenance number, note the work order, and you can keep calling back if the order isn't completed, if those repairs aren't done within the time period that they say they will be. And again, if the problem persists, you can call Canberra Community Law and we can assist you with that negotiation. But definitely try those steps first yourself. The second type of repair are called urgent repairs. The law says that your landlord has to make urgent repairs as soon as is necessary, as soon as you tell them about the problem. This is the case for public housing tenants and for private rentals. The same law applies to everybody. This is still the case during COVID-19. So in most cases, this should mean that Housing ACT carries out those repairs within 24 hours of you telling them about the problem. But urgent repairs are only a specific type of repair. So they're things like a burst pipe, for example. That would be an urgent repair. Or if there's rain damage and you have water coming into your house, that's an urgent repair. Or if there's a gas or electricity failure. So you can expect, if you have an urgent repair, you call maintenance, you say, this is an urgent repair, you can expect to get help within 24 hours. If that doesn't happen, you should call them back and quote the work number, and then you should call somewhere like Canberra Community Law for assistance. So what happens if they don't do the repairs? If it's a non-urgent repair, so one of those minor, internal door that's been broken or a kitchen drawer, then as the first step, as I said, we recommend you follow up with Programmed with the work order and attempt to resolve the matter over the phone. The other things that you can do is, just as Housing ACT can send you a letter called a notice to remedy telling you to fix whatever you're doing that they think is wrong, you can also send Housing a letter like that they're required to comply with. So you can write Housing ACT a letter like that and say, we want this done within 2 weeks, for example, and wait and see how they respond. And then if that doesn't work, again, you can call Canberra Community Law. With an urgent repair, I really do recommend that you seek legal advice, but the law does say that if you have an urgent repair and Housing ACT don't fix it within a reasonable time, then you're entitled to undertake that repair action yourself. But the law says you're only able to do that to a maximum of 5% of the rent of the property per year. So for example, if you pay $100 a week in rent, your annual rent is a bit over $5,000. That only lets you authorize urgent repairs to, the value of something like $260. So it's not very much money. So the reason why I say be cautious with this is that if you spend more money trying to do that repair than you're entitled to under the law, there's no guarantee that Housing ACT will pay you back. So if you've got an urgent repair that's not being carried out, do seek legal help because perhaps we can assist you and you won't run that financial risk. Really important here, under no circumstances should you withhold rent. I know it's so frustrating if you have repairs to be done and they're not getting done, and it can feel like the only power you have is to stop paying rent, but that's a breach of your tenancy agreement. And the way the law works, it says that housing can still evict you for doing that, even if they've also done the wrong thing. So please don't withhold rent. Definitely go through those steps we've just talked about, and then call Canberra Community Law if you need further assistance.